One morning, there was an idol at Tokyo Heisei Private High School where the protagonist attended, and they were in the same class. Her name was Rei Otosaki. She had beautiful blonde hair due to her mixed foreign blood. She had a well-defined style unlike that of a normal high school student. She had unparalleled looks and a voice. It was no exaggeration to say that all the students were her fans. But as for him, he was not interested in celebrities. He was looking at that from the standpoint of neither a fan nor an antagonist. Unlike in front of the camera, Otosaki was usually cool, even when she was surrounded by everyone. It was hard to tell what she was thinking. A girl said leaning on the bench that Otosaki was as popular as ever. The other one added that Miliesta was going strong too. The number of views of their new song was amazing. Plus, the comments from foreign countries were also increasing. A cute-looking boy who was the protagonist's best friend, Yukio Inaba. He was often mistaken for a girl because of his looks, of course. He asked Rintaro if he had another part-time job that day. He said yes and added that it was just temporary. But they were paying him more per hour, so that was great. Rintaro was pretty busy for a guy who said his goal was to not work. It was because sensei had become a hot topic. But the amount of manuscripts had increased and her assistant could not keep up. So he thought he just had to make money for a reason then. And his goal had not changed. He thought in the future he would find a woman who would work hard for him. And he was going to be a house husband. He had always had a firm life goal of being a stay-at-home husband. He didn't want a life of working all the time. His best friend complimented him on his determination, though, but he gave him the reality check that he didn't have a partner for that, though. The teacher then instructed the class to get to work. The idol was in the class as well. He wondered why she had such a beautiful face. He wondered if she had any difficulties or concerns, and if there was even such a thing. The teacher thanked the class for their hard work. Back home, he thanked someone for the hard work and brought the drinks for that person. It was a beautiful girl who was his cousin. She thanked him merrily. He asked, referring to her as sensei, how long she had been up. She told him not to worry and that it had been just 2 nights. He said concerningly that it was not okay. Then he went on to work mode and observed that it was a beautiful manuscript. And he could see why she insisted on using analog. He drew the sketches. After finishing the work, she said he could go then. He asked her how much more he could do, but she thanked him and said it was all thanks to him that she was again back on track. Then he was saying something, but she interrupted him with a beautiful smile and thanked him for helping her out. He replied that he was always ready to help her again and said he would be looking forward to the magazine then. She thanked him and asked him to leave it to her. On the bus, he thought the next stop would be Nishikubo. It was getting late. Then he saw a car and wondered why he didn't know that there were people who were driving luxury cars around there. He glanced when the car gate opened and saw Heisei's uniform. He saw blonde hair and guessed that it was Otosaki. And it seemed that he ran into Otosaki on her way home from work. No one around noticed him. It was probably best for him not to get involved there. He thought he could not take responsibility if he greeted her and got photographed in a weekly magazine. He thought of just passing by and pretended that he didn't notice. Then he passed by looking at her. She asked what was wrong, but then she slipped by. Then he asked her to watch out for her and prevent them from falling. He asked her if she was okay calling her name out. He thought that he could not help but hold her in place. She looked at him and called his name out. He was shocked that she called her name. She was shocked by the coincidence. He asked her if she was okay and told her that he got scared when she collapsed. When she didn't respond, he was more concerned and asked again what was wrong and that he should call an ambulance. She blushed and said her stomach was empty. He was confused hearing the answer. He thought again if she said she was hungry. He said that he was worried about her. She said that it was terrible. He apologized and said he was afraid that she was not feeling well, so he'd just. But then he thought he should treat her normally. He asked her if she was that hungry. And if that was all it takes for all to not be able to move. She said she didn't know he could talk like that either. He told her not to mind that and to just tell him about why. She replied that today's lesson was special and there was a recording and interview. So her schedule was packed to the minute, and she had to guide herself to endure it. He guessed it was to be expected of a top idol. Then he wasted her eating something. It was getting noisy around there, and it was only a matter of time before they found out she was Rei Otosaki. And as expected, he didn't feel comfortable leaving the idol there, and she was his classmate after all. He asked her if she would be able to move as long as she was east, and asked her if that was right. He thought it couldn't be helped, and held all her bags. He asked her if she felt uncomfortable, just to bear with that. Then he asked her to get on. He said he would make her dinner at his place if she would like. He asked her to get on. and if she didn't like, he would leave her to the nearest diner. He asked her which one she wanted. Then he pitched her up. Then she chose his cooking and said she was interested in that. Then he blushed because he felt the sensation of the local gravity, but he motivated himself to focus. There was some pork in the fridge that would expire today. He asked her if that was okay. She replied that it was okay. Then she directed him to go towards her. She asked him if he lived alone. He replied yes and said it was a long story. He dropped her on the sofa and then offered her to take her shoes off. He offered her to watch the TV and wait for him. He came and told her that he was pretty sure he was going to use the pork and asked her what she wanted to eat. She replied, "Shagiyaki." He said he didn't expect her to like it. Then he apologized to her and said that the rice came in a retort and asked her if she could wait till it was cooked. He said that in the meantime he would cook the shagiyaki. He then began cooking. She realized that he was good at cooking. He brought the food. Impressed by it, she asked him what it was. And it smelled wonderful. He asked her to dig in. Before the meal, she thanked God for the meal. Then she began eating. She was delighted by its delicious taste. She began eating hurriedly and said it was the best she had ever had and said she was sure of it. He replied that it was good. She finished the bowl within seconds and he thought it was really quick. She asked him if he always cooked for himself. He replied with a yes and also added that he had even made it many times. She asked him why. He replied that it was for saving and he needed to save money for his living and his future wife. She asked about the wife. He replied that it was his goal to become a house husband, and he was going to cook tasty and healthy food for his hardworking wife. She gave him a glaze and replied that it was great. Then she said that he was hardworking to achieve his dream and it was great. He asked her if she was serious. She replied that indeed she was. Then he said that he thought her dreams were on a different level than that of an idol. She replied that was not the case. He thought that she would make fun of him and was not expecting a compliment. Then on the TV, the molesta played. She asked how the new song was and also added that she was nervous. He wondered if she was seriously looking at herself and wondered how she felt. Then he called her and asked her how it felt to be an idol. She replied that it was fun, and that it had been her dream ever since she was a little. That was why she worked hard and got lucky. And now she was working even harder to hold on to the opportunity she seized. Then she said no matter what one's dream was, anyone who works hard to achieve it is an amazing person, and said that she wanted to support those people. Then he said he might think he had become a fan of hers for the first time that day. Then she agitatedly said that he was not a fan before. He replied honestly that he was not interested in her. Then he wondered if he had to give it a try, though. Then she said she was a fan of his, too, and she wanted to eat there again. He denied. She asked why not. He answered that if a top idol is with a guy, there will be a big controversy, and that she was not a normal high school student after all. Then she gave his opinion a thought. Then he also said that if that happens, he would be the one to ruin her reputation. And he can't take responsibility for that. She said it was okay and she would bear with it. He wondered why she looked so depressed. Then he explained to her more by adding that they have to do it for the sake of both of them, and they should try their best to stay away from each other outside the school. And he tried to be blunt there. Then he asked her if she should go home as it was getting late, and asked her if she should walk home since it was dangerous. He asked her what she meant after she gave him a blank look. He asked her if she was thinking of staying there. She nodded. He replied to her demand that having an idle sleepover at a guy's house was a serious matter and said he already warned her about that. Then he said he had to go home and that he knew she was tired. She looked depressed again and said that she couldn't argue with that. She apologized and said she would listen to him. Then he wondered if he was lecturing an idol then, or rather that was with that idol's lack of sense of danger. Then he ended up calling a cab. Then he told her to forget everything about that day and asked her to forget about him too, and said that from then on they were just who happened to know each other. But also added that he was glad she said it was delicious, and that it gave him confidence, and thanked her. She replied that she was glad that he was so kind to her, and that was why instead of just being classmates, she hoped he would allow her to at least call him a friend. Then with her beautiful eyes flashing at him, she asked if she could. He thought how any man could say no to that. Then he agreed to her, and they were classmates after all, and it was not weird or anything. She was glad to hear that. Then he thought to himself, what was so great about being friends with someone like him? Then she said to him goodbye, and that she would see him at school the next day. It was an exhausting day for him, after all. The next day at school, Otosaki didn't seem any different from usual, and wondered that she must have made it home safely after that. He thought that as long as they could be sure of that, he didn't have to worry about that anymore. His friend then teased him that it was unusual he was staring at Otosaki. He replied that he thought he was staring at her yesterday as well, but his friend said it was different from usual, though. He said it was not the way he usually looked at him. Rintaro replied that he was not sure and that it was just his imagination, he said. His friend said maybe he was right. Then his phone gave a notification. It was from Yuzuki-sensei. And he was being summoned by her. His friend again teased him that he was a little jealous that he was being an assistant to the famous mangaka. After school, he went to her place. She begged him sorry and said that she drew the character who was not supposed to be there for an entire chapter. And she had already sent her assistant home. Then he further continued her statement that the only one she could rely on was him since he was her relative, but since she said she was going to raise her wage, he would do his best. She begged him sorry again. After that, he was tired again and he could not feel his fingers anymore. The mangaka was zombified at the end. And it was 11 p.m. then, and it was getting late. And then he thought about what he should do for dinner. A suspicious person was sitting with a hoodie and mask covered there. He gave the person a look and asked what she was doing there. The person then opened up. It was none other than Otosaki. She said she was waiting for him. Looking at her, he wondered if she was even real, then reminded her that he told her not to come. She said she knew, but she had a favor to ask. He was surprised that she was waiting there all that time. Then he told her that he would listen to her request anyway and asked her to go inside. He made the tea and she asked her to have the dark one and she preferred it sweet. Then he made the tea and gave it to her. Then he asked her what she wanted. She said she thought about it all day and she wanted to eat his food again. Then he said, didn't he deny that the day before? Then she compared the bento she had for lunch and the bento she had backstage was no comparison. He blushed after hearing the compliment, and then consoled him not to get carried away. Then with a stoic face, he replied he couldn't. If they saw them together, it would be fatal for him, and the cost of food will be doubled as well. And he added that it might sound stingy, but he didn't want to have less money to put into his savings. He needed to save every penny he could in case he didn't get married in the future. But she was persistent and offered him that she would pay him 300,000 yen as a salary every month. In addition to that, she would pay for the food for both of them and asked him to please feed her every day. Then she put a bundle of money on the table. Looking at the offer, he instantly invited her to feel free to come over. He thought to himself that he was lured by the money, but it was too much as well. Then asked her, even if she paid to him the amount today, can she keep paying him that amount each month? And just because she was an idol didn't mean she should be overloaded. She replied in a flashy way that she had 5 commercials lined up that year, her songs were selling well, and she had concerts coming up so there was no problem. She was too convincing, and maybe she had made enough money for the rest of her life. And then she said if it was not enough, she was willing to pay more. He was surprised and said he didn't spend much money to begin with. Then giving it a thought, he accepted the offer. Then she held his hand merrily. He said he needed money to live, and he was honestly glad that she valued his work to 3 million yen. She replied that she wanted to pay more, but if he said it was not necessary, she would put up with that. Then she asked her to promise him one thing. When she came to that room, he asked her to be careful not to get caught. She replied that she knew that. Then they thought about a contract. He thought that though he knew something was wrong with her, she was a maniac who went even further than that. To pay 3 million yen just to have a classmate cook dinner for her was something crazy. And he could only think that her head was screwed up. But he was just as much of a sucker for her as she was for him, and that was fair enough for him, he guessed. Then after the promised handshake, she demanded that she wanted curry. He replied that he could make curry, but it takes a while, and asked if it was okay. She said that it was okay, and said that she would stay there tonight. She said that she told him to make food for her every day, so that included breakfast as well. She also added that she won't sleep enough if she walks from home in the morning, and that was the reason she was staying over. He said that she couldn't and wondered about the scenarios. He said that high school students sleeping together was bad in many ways, and she was an idol as well. Then she took out her purse. She said she would pay him 5 million yen and she would be more careful. He was again lured by the money and said it could not be helped. And finally agreed. He apologized to himself that he would not win against the money. It made his arms tremble to think of a chef who'd charge that much. But in any case, he didn't have to be stingy with the cost of ingredients anymore. Using some good potatoes that he had carefully selected in Japanese style with soy sauce and the secret ingredient sauce, the heat was perfect and he was done. It was ready. Then he offered her the food and said he made it taste more Japanese and hoped that it would suit her taste palate. She thanked him for the meal and ate it. She complimented that it was delicious. It was delicious and she ate that hurriedly and asked her if he was really happy. Her eyes shined so brightly when she ate and there was no doubt that it was flattery. He said that he had made it a large portion so if it was too much she could just leave it. But within seconds she finished the food. Then, serving the next tray, he thought, where did all the amount of the food go into that thin boy of hers? She said that she needed a lot of food to endure the tough lessons, and this amount of food was rather insufficient. He thought that it would be worth making. She thanked me for the food. Then, doing the dishes, he was not that still a little weird, the part where she wanted to eat commoners' food like that, and further said that he didn't want to be sarcastic, but he was sure they could feed her something better than that. He said that this situation seemed so perfect to him that he thought it was a fraud to be paid that much to cook a meal for an idol and to have her stay over. She replied that it had been a long time since she had eaten someone's homemade food. Her family was a bit rich, however both her parents were very busy and were rarely at home, so her food was prepared by the housekeeper. The food was supposed to be warm, but for some reason it was not warm at all. Then he wondered if she was also similar to him. She said that the rice was warmer than any other rice and that made her very happy. She said that she was sure that she would never forget it. He replied that it was not too big of a deal. Then it was time for a bath. He said that he would heat up and it was fine if she wanted to go in, but added that he only had men's shampoo. She replied that it was okay and she had brought her shampoo. She seemed excited about the stay. He asked about her clothes and said it was hard to sleep in the house. She said she would borrow his t-shirt, and also asked him not to worry if it was his size and if it would be like a dress. She said she preferred not to wear pants and she didn't like it when it was tight at night. He thought that the scenario would turn it into a boyfriend shirt. He asked her if she often misled men. She replied she heard members did that a lot and asked him how he knew that. He thought about how naive she was. He told her that she should be more careful. He said she was a little too vulnerable and said that they say men are beasts and asked her if she knew it. She asked him if he was a beast too. He replied he was not going to attack her and added that who attacks their employer and said he had to take care of his clients. Said money handlers were terrible, but it was a relief. Money was the one thing that comforted him and that was not bad. He said there were all kinds of men in the world, and she should be more aware that she was much more than she thinks. He said she already stood out enough. She asked him if he liked her body too. He was drinking from a glass when she said that and he suddenly choked hearing what she said. She then went on and explained that lately everyone kept staring at her body and she was afraid of the eyes of the people in school and at work and maybe it was just her imagination. But she wanted people to appreciate her for her singing and dancing. And guys were looking at them in a very erotic way. Otosaki was a slender and beautiful girl when she debuted and when she became a high school student, her boy became more mature and rather too mature. He said, of course looks were important and added that if it was not for them, she would never have debuted in the first place. But he didn't think anyone thought that was all there to it. He said he honestly thought that Otosaki was amazing in the way she sang. He said her singing and dancing were amazing, and he could tell that he had practiced a lot. And said she was the one who knew how to do all those things, and her purity was also attractive. And maybe it was the combination of all those things that made her so special. She was happy hearing all that from him, and she thanked him. Then she went on and took a shower. The shower should have the shower running. It was the first time he heard that sound from his room. He meant he was the only one who only ever stayed there. He was deciding on the t-shirt, but he could not make the choice. He thought the bigger it was, the better. Then he finally decided on one. The shirt had something written on it was his motto. He had no choice but to lend that to her. He thought he would better hurry up and put that in the bathroom soon. He opened the door, but her towel slipped seeing him. Seeing her like that, he turned scarlet and turned away and said sorry and that he didn't see anything. He said he came to give her the shirt and it was a change of t-shirt. And then asked her to put that on and come. And said the hairdryer was in the living room. She picked up the shirt and wore it. Then she exquisitely dyes her hair. Seeing her, he wondered that she smelled nice. Her fragrance was filling the air. Then he said that earlier he didn't see anything and that he looked as quickly as he could. She replied that it was just a coincidence and he didn't have to worry about that. And said there was no need to be concerned. She switched the TV on, it had the Molesta playing on that. He asked her if she was bothered by her appearance on the stage. Looking at it again, she criticized her performance that she waved her arms wider there. He replied that she was being too detailed and he honestly didn't understand. Then she stood up and started going the steps and explained that it was like that, but it was supposed to be the other way. He thought even when she was right in front of him, he almost forgot that she was still an idol after all. Even the face he could not understand what she was thinking had somewhat the face of a professional. She was already sleepy and he instructed it was time to bed. She said a delicious meal and a warm bath, she was able to relax as if she was in a ryokan. She thanked him and said good night sleeping on the couch. But he told her to use the bed instead of the couch. She said it was no problem and it was fine. But he insisted she sleep on the bed, because letting an idol sleep on the couch was not the thing to do. She slept on the bed and complimented that it felt nice indeed. She asked her what about him. He said that he would sleep on the couch. She said she would squeeze in beside him and ask him to sleep together. But he denied, of course. He asked her to go to sleep and not to worry. She said she had a good sleeping posture and didn't care about him, but then said that she slept. Sleeping on the couch, he thought it was a hell of a day. He had a dream, where he was a kid who was calling for his mommy. But his mommy went farther and away because she wanted to be free. He woke up stunned. It was the same dream he had seen many times. In the morning when he woke up, he was still worried about the world where Otosaki existed. He guessed brushing his teeth that reality felt more like a dream. Then knocking at the door, he said it was good morning. He knocked again and asked to wake up soon or she was going to be late. Then he asked her if she was good and said he would be coming in. He went inside and saw something he should not have. She wore his shirt, but it was half revealing her torso. Looking at her upper two, he wondered if they were huge. He asked himself to calm down. He covered her up. He wondered if she was sleeping without underwear. He addressed her as Rise and Shine and asked her to wake up and eat her food. Hearing him shouting beside him, she woke up drowsily. Looking at her, he thought she was not a morning person after all. Then he asked her preference for the dish. Looking at the food, she said it looked nice and hot. He said proudly that the egg was slightly runny and the bacon was crispy. He asked her to enjoy the difference in the taste and texture. She thanked him for the food and tasted it. It was delicious indeed. He talked about the specialty in the dish and asked her to eat a lot and build up her stamina for the day. She said he had another lesson that day and it was perfect. After thinking for a while, she said that she had come up with an idea. He asked what it was, but back in his mind, he had a bad feeling about that for some reason. She said it was hard to have her breakfast in spade houses, so she asked him, "Why don't rent a new place and share it?" "It was a brilliant idea," she added. But to him, as expected, he came up with something ridiculous.